principle of privatization, which I hold very dear, Mr. Chairman. Now, on the issue of my ideological orientation, the honorable member has mentioned that on the 14th of January 2015, I raised issues with the grabbing of Langata Primary School land and whether or not I still hold the same position. Now, I'm a strong believer in good governance, Mr. Chairman, and the issues that I raised at that point in time perhaps brought this issue into the public domain. I believe that these issues are now before the courts of law, and we need to wait for our judicial system to bring this to a logical conclusion, Mr. Chairman. Now, as much as we need to hold dear the principles of good governance, I, in the same vein, believe that we need to allow independent institutions, Mr. Chairman, to execute their mandate without any undue influence from any sector in government. And if institutions are independent, let us not have any other arm of government interfering in the independent institutions, or the operations of those independent institutions. So I believe that the institutions which are charged with this responsibility will execute their mandate with respect to this case to a logical conclusion. And at that point in time, we will stand guided accordingly, Mr. Chairman. There's also the issue of I having been summoned to the CID headquarters on 16th of July 2013 on alleged matters of having some intentions to destabilize the then Jubilee government. Mr. Chairman, it is indeed true that those summons were issued one morning. I got those summons. I organized myself quickly and reported to the CID headquarters. But when I got there, I came to realize that the CID acted on some claims or allegations by some anonymous complainant. And at that point in time, the CID had not ascertained the veracity or otherwise of those allegations. I was indeed asked to write a statement, but I declined as a matter of principle because I felt that it was incumbent upon the CID to undertake its investigations. And once they had conclusively undertaken their investigations and come up with a technically feasible position, they were at that point then in time duty-bound to support me. But I was not going to help the CID in undertaking its investigations, Mr. Chairman. The irony is, Mr. Chairman, that at the same time when I was summoned, I also simultaneously applied for a certificate of good conduct from the same CID, Mr. Chairman, which came back in the affirmative. The CID did indicate that they would summon me if they had got something substantive that they wanted me to respond to. To date, about 10 years down the line, they have never called me back. The matter ended there, and that's how the case. Those are the facts of the case, Mr. Chairman. On the issue of organizational restructuring, what do I envisage to do with respect to the Media Council? I'm a strong advocate of self-regulation of industries and sectors. I believe that we have got adequate capacity within the media fraternity to self-regulate itself. The role of the ministry would be limited to provision of a policy framework that facilitates an enabling environment to facilitate that, Mr. Chairman. I would rather the media fraternity regulates itself while we create that enabling environment. But if I'm successful and I assume office, I'll of course initiate constant, regular consultations with stakeholders in that industry so that we discern emerging issues from time to time that perhaps as a ministry we will then have to respond to or align our operations to. Just to look at what is emerging based on those consultations, and then we will deal with it. The issue of government advertising agency and whether or not it is curtailing the freedoms of the media. Now, I believe the intention of the government, or introducing the government in advertising agency to regulate or to administer advertisement of public sector entities, more so the ministries, was well-intentioned. In my understanding, the intention was to